This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
This season marks a new beginning. Witness the raw power, iconic sound, and pure speed from the historic Lotus 79. Experience the competition and glory days of early 80s open-wheel action. Watch as drivers wrestle these ground effects cars into submission. Drivers will face off wheel to wheel. For some, it's a chance at redemption. For others, an opportunity to make a statement. All sharing the same goal, to be crowned champion. Who will be victorious tonight? The Lionheart Retro Series presented by Butt Kicker starts now.
Nestled at the base of the Sierra Estrella mountain range, a track renowned for its rabid fans and tight-knit stock car racing. But 55 years ago, this 1 mile with a twist opened to the roar of roadsters with the likes of Unser and Jones and Ward and Rutherford. And by the way, the inaugural winner, probably heard of him, AJ Foyt. The Valley of the Sun became a hotbed for the best open-wheel oval racing in the country, a proving ground for future Indy 500 stars and the stage setter for the greatest spectacle in racing. Tonight, drivers from around the world will pay homage to the legends of the past. It's round 4 of the Lionheart Retro Series, presented by Butt Kicker, the Sam Maxwell Customs 175 at ISM Raceway, and it's next in live right here on the iRacing Esports Network, presented by Global Sim Racing Channel. Good evening, everybody, and welcome. I'm Jason Galvin. It's great to have you with us. Joining me here in the booth tonight, 1996 Las Vegas IndyCar winner Richie Hearn. Amjad Yaman calling the shots, Dougie Beard on the cameras, and this is the Sim Experience Countdown to the Green. A little bit of a change this year, Richie, for the Retro Series, which tries to kind of honor the past of open wheel and run the older tracks on the service. But the series made the decision this week to go with the new version of ISM Raceway. Tell us about it.
Yeah, we're at the new version of ISM Raceway, which I still call Phoenix International Raceway. Track is 1 mile long. Nothing's changed with that. Just the dog leg in the back is a little different than it used to be. A lot more room to play with. It was renovated in the summer of 2011 and again in 2018. Track's a little different on both ends. Turns 1 and 2 are tight with an 8-9 degree of banking. 3 to 4 are pretty wide open, and after watching them practice, we're going to be seeing about 3 wide, and we got 10 to 11 degrees through there, so a lot of room to race with. Probably the best way for you viewers to see what this is like is to jump on board that GSRC lap guide.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Global Sim Racing Channel. I'm Brian Yazzie, taking you for a spinner on the Phoenix International Raceway and the GSRC Lotus 79. So without further ado, here we go. The Lotus drives pretty much unlike any other car on the surface. Really got to lift it there into turn 1. The big reason for that is the front tires are much smaller than the rear tires, so when it comes to making those sudden changes, this car doesn't really like it. It tends to oversteer that way. Down here into turn 3, just breathe the throttle just a hair running along the bottom. Clip that yellow line on the bottom, keep it kind of focused off of there, bringing it straight off of the corner. back down into turn one, once again lifting somewhere between the 2 and the 1 cones on the wall, and then pick up the throttle as fast as you can once you feel the front end of the machine set. Bring it down here, clip the dog leg just a little bit, get right next to those cones, bring it back out onto the track, down into turn 3 once again, crack the throttle, maybe even 10%, and then get back in it as fast as you can. Coming off of 4, down the front stretch, and across the line. And that is going to complete our track guide here around the Phoenix International Raceway. I'm Brian Yazek. Enjoy the show.
And that's a lap around, or 2 laps around ISM Speedway in the current version. The old school version, through that kink, it was all grass, so there was no way to cut down through there. You literally had to actually stay on the racing line. So it's a little bit wide open as we race on this current version. This lap, the Countdown to Green is brought to you by Sim Experience, the team behind the AccuForce Pro V2 direct drive steering systems. By providing unparalleled realism and the most advanced tuning features on the market, the AccuForce provides a significant advantage to any sim racer. It can also make for an effective training tool for real-world drivers. For more information on the entire Sim Experience ecosystem, including their GS5 seat, Stage Series motion systems, and the Sim5 software, visit simexperience.com. Use the promo code SIMXLION to receive 5% off your next order.
Love this racetrack. Love this series that the Lionheart Racing Series puts on. The Lionheart Retro Series and the Lotus L79. Let's take a look at how the standings sit right now. After 3 rounds, and it is real-life IndyCar star Sage Karam with a 21-point lead over Season 1 runner-up Ryan Otis. Caveat here, Sage Karam not in attendance right now for this race, and I'm going to venture to say 3 minutes before qualifying, Sage probably missed this event. Of course, pretty busy. The month of May has started. He's trying to win an Indy 500. Dustin Wardlow is 3rd in points, 8 points behind Ryan Otis, and Alex Saunders, your championship runner-up 1 year ago, is 1 point back of Wardlow as we head into round number 4. Look at George Anzaldo up there in 5th place. Great start to the season it has been for him so far this year. Let's take a look at the team championship standings here in the Lionheart Retro Series presented by Butt Kicker. And the team championship standings presented by PlasmaTracks.com. Great stuff there. It is Raven Motorsports Black with the powerhouse team of Ryan Otis, James Paulson, and Dustin Wardlow, who have already opened up a nearly 100-point lead over Mark Cohn, Finn and Juna, and Joe Hassert in the NLR Sim Racing team. Raven Motorsports Silver with George Anzaldo and Ron Hacker and Travis Jägerlener sit 118 points back in 3rd. Of course, Raven was the overall team champion 1 year ago with George and Dustin and myself and a few other people. Shameless plug there. Rookie of the Year standings here in the Lionheart Retro Series. And at the top right now is Sage Karam. Paul Jenkins, Finn and Juna, George Sandman will have a chance to maybe jump up. Same with Ron Hacker and move around Sage Karam after tonight's race with Sage not here. Of course, there are over 20 rookies signed up full-time. I think the number's much more than that. I'm playing it awfully safe. Crazy how many new drivers there are to this Lionheart Retro Series. It is the Valley of the Sun, and the sun might be down, but it is pretty warm out still. 86 degrees tonight and clear in what is actually Avondale, which is southwest of Phoenix, if you're familiar with the greater Phoenix area, and just up against the Estrella Mountains, as we talked about on the show open. It is clear skies with the sun down. I wouldn't expect the track to be changing too much more, and not a lot of wind to deal with tonight either. We are in the Lotus L79. Let's take a look at the series details presented by Minus 273 and their cool gloves. Richie, this is a really interesting car to run on an oval.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, and I've run a few races this year. Not out there tonight, but here broadcasting for you guys. But it is a lot of fun. It's a pure raw driving car, H-pattern gearbox, all the good stuff. But we're in Series 3 of the Lionheart Lotus 79 series, round 4 of 18. They do allow 2 driver drops. We'll calculate those as we get a little farther into the season. Setups are adjusted, but they are fixed, so you can't really change anything, but they're adjusted to make the cars a little more drivable, and we're working on a total of cash and prizes of $7,610.
There's a lot of cool stuff on the line this year. Fuel is set at 28% for this race because it's not a Triple Crown race. It means their window is somewhere in the 57 to 60 lap range. And with 175 laps, it means we're probably looking at a couple of pit stops in this event. Of course, cautions will certainly dictate when a driver may want to pit because usually not a car that you want to change tires in. Richie, have you had a lot of chance to play around with the no tire strategy on an oval in one of these cars?
A little bit, but definitely the tires are old school tires, so they're pretty hard and last a long time. The pit stops aren't very fast, as the back then in the Lotus 79 era, they didn't really change tires, so it's not really set up for that. It's really going to come down to, like I said, the fuel mileage, pitting at the right time, and just kind of working your way backwards from that 175 lap mark, working backwards, and so you don't have to make any more pit stops than you need to.
Believe we have started qualifying presented by Butt Kicker, and you're taking a look at Big Joe Hassert out on the racetrack right now, and now George Sandman, one of those drivers competing for Rookie of the Year, as a great field on hand tonight here in the Lionheart Retro Series. The last that I saw, we were at 32 plus cars, and I'll have to double check on that here as things reload for me on the iRacing end. Paint's all updated, so we know who we're looking at. But this is George Sandman, qualifying lap around here, Richie, in the retro car, wide open, right?
Oh, definitely wide open. I mean, at turn 1 and 2 is a little tricky. You got to really enter that corner correctly in order to stay wide open. But 3 and 4, it's pretty much just, don't scrub the car any more than you need to. You can drop below that yellow line, help the car turn a little bit. Watching these guys practice a little earlier, I don't think qualifying is going to be super important as well as far as positioning, but I think the farther up you can start, the less trouble you can get yourself into. So, everybody's going to want to start up front. Right now, Dustin Wardlow up on top with a 23.282.
By the way, Sage Karam did arrive at the very last second to join this field. So, add another twist to things here.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting for everybody because he has definitely been the driver to beat. Has pretty much smoked the field a couple times this year. So struggled a little bit at Pocono in the IndyCar last week, but we'll see how he does. He's sitting, looks like he's sitting ninth at the moment. So probably not as good as he'd like, but when you jump in at the last minute, he's in a good position.
Yeah, not a lot of opportunities to pass here in this car either, especially, it's a ground effects car, very aero dependent. And I was talking to Joe Hassert, who's a teammate of mine over on the IndyCar side of things, earlier today about this set. And he kind of felt like if you were able to get out in front, it was going to be difficult if you were one of the more talented drivers to make a clean pass. And as I recall last year on the old layout, that was something that we also struggled with. I think I held off Brian Yazik and Adam Blocker for about 50 laps, and we came across the finish line 3 wide, but they could never get enough run to really threaten. I remember being 3 wide at the finish line, but it was as comfortable as I've ever been in a 3 wide for the win position because it's just so hard in this car when you're not lifting as much as you are in the Indy car to build up a run.
Well, and part of the problem is this car was never designed to be on ovals, so those front tires are pretty small, and so they really rely on that front downforce to help it turn. So, if somebody's running the line that you want, obviously you're going to struggle a little bit. I assume it will, like I said earlier, we'll see him fan out a little bit. Probably more importantly is going to be how the leaders get through lap traffic, because even though you catch up to somebody in the back and they're a little slower, just like what you mentioned, it is tough to pass. So that can kind of change the momentum as we get through this race.
It's Texas driver Taft Baldwin, who does not have a top 10 in any of his 3 starts this year. The Ride and Shotgun Motorsports entry that currently sits on top of the board with about 55 seconds left in qualifying. Baldwin, a 23.266 second lap right now to pace the field. That is 200ths better almost than Dustin Wardlow and David Clymer. David Altman, George Anzaldo, Ryan Otis, and Ken Hacker. Those are the 7 cars that have actually broken into the 23.2 second range. So the only 7 cars that have shown that much pace, and Taft Baldwin is plenty ahead of everybody else right now.
Yeah, plenty ahead on an oval, but really, in reality, if you look at Taft Baldwin at 23.26, go all the way back to Joshua Gaiman in 30th at a 23.54, so less than 0.2 of a second or 0.3 of a second covering the whole field. So it's going to be tight and it's going to be interesting.
Hey, hang on, and you picked out Josh Gaiman, and not to pick on him at all, but Josh is 0.1 of a second slower than the car in front of him and Scott Holmes. So from first to 29th is a 26 to a 44. Yowzers. That is blazing. Let's take a look at the qualifying results presented by Butt Kicker as we start to grid and get ready for 175 laps around ISM Raceway in Phoenix. It is Taft Baldwin with his first pole in the Lionheart Retro Series. Bakersfield's Dustin Wardlow outside of row 1. David Clymer and David Altman in row 2. George Anzaldo, the series founder, and Ryan Otis sit in row 3. Ken Hacker and Mark Cohn in row 4. And there is Sage Karam, the points leader, and Chris Lanini in row 5.
Coming up in row 6 and 11th position will be Big Joe Hassert. Right next to him will be James Paulson. Starting 13th will be Dean Mall, and next to him in 14th will be Justin Kirby. George Sandman starting 15th. I'm sure he's not thoroughly excited about that, but nice job as far as he's mostly a road course guy. Eric Block in 16th. 17th, Robert Bluen. 18th, Ryan Corns. 19th, Frank Beezer. And 20th, Travis Jagenliner.
Dylan McKenna will start 21st with Mike Rigney, who was the IndyCar pole sitter at Pocono last week, in 22nd. Chad Dalton and Paul Jenkins in 23rd and 24th. Then it's Finian Tuna and Chris Walker, Ron Hacker and Darren Ganji, Scott Holmes and the aforementioned Joshua Gaiman get us to 30th.
31st is going to be Adam Young and JP Winschittel. Is that how you say that? It's going to be starting 32nd, and Tyler Landis, although those two did not put in a time, or at least not a clean lap.
Win. If he wins, we'll just call him Win. JP Win.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, we're rolling. I hear David Cordy, the race director, and Pierre Degley do a great job in the race control booth for Lionheart Retro Series, kind of talking everybody through here. I believe it's 1 lap around at Phoenix. Am I wrong on that, Rich?
Yeah, I believe so. It's not much to get everything going. I don't think it's going to be a big problem, though. You know, that the track temp is warm enough to where we can get some heat in those tires. I think hopefully everybody takes it easy for the first few laps. I think the real thing is going to be see how long it takes for Taft Baldwin to come around and start catching up to the back of the field.
Taft Baldwin, first career pole. The Texas driver has control of the field. The pace car is off. Green flag is out. We are racing at ISM Raceway in the Valley of the Sun, and Dustin Wardlow, shot out of a cannon on the outside, does not let Baldwin get clear till they get up off of 2. Battle now inside of Wardlow for second is David Clymer, and here's where we'll see them really fan out into turn 3.
Yeah, everybody see 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, so nobody's single file just yet, as everything is just building up to speed. Nice clean start, but yeah, Taft Baldwin just holding that yellow line all the way around 1 and 2, getting a little bit of a run and kind of clearing Dustin Wardlow out, and so far so good.
For Taft Baldwin, that is just the second lap he has led in his now 4 starts in the Retro Series. But Dustin Wardlow starting to stalk Baldwin now that he has gotten clear for second place. And the two of them have opened up a little bit of a gap on Clymer and Altman and Anzaldo and Ken Hacker and pretty much everybody else under a blanket right now.
I'm looking at, seems like the bottom line is really working well for those guys who are down there. Kind of watching Sage Karam just a little bit as Joe Hassard has been kind of challenging him down on the bottom and not allowing the stage to get down there. But I think everybody's just kind of feeling it out a little bit, not getting too crazy. Just kind of seeing how it all sorts out as we get farther into this first stint.
Ken Hacker just went around George Anzaldo for the 5th spot, and here is Sage Karam, who you ride on board with on the outside now, making a move on Anzaldo as well. That moves Sage up to the 6th spot. George slides in front of Big Joe Hassert, then Mark Cohn, Ryan Otis at your top 10, and that was nearly a little bit of trouble there. It's Cohn and Big Joe, and we got a battle up front for the lead. It's Dustin Wardlow, the Candyman, looking to the outside of Taft Baldwin as we come across to complete lap 5.
I think you'll see as these tires wear out a little bit, holding that bottom line in 1 and 2 is going to be tough. Those little tires don't want to make that corner, so I think as we get going, you're going to see the fast line move up as Dustin Wardlow is trying to prove me right, as he's trying to keep that momentum and keeping Taft Baldwin honest.
Baldwin again decides he wants the low line into 1, gives Wardlow the clean air, and Dustin's going to be able to roll the outside, and look at David Clymer take a big run in there. 3-car battle for the lead now as we work lap 7 into turn 3, and everybody has caught Taft Baldwin right now. Altman, Hacker, Karam, Big Joe, Anzaldo, they're all in this lead pack as they head off into 1, but it's Baldwin who maintains the lead. Wardlow's right there, but unable to get around the Texas native.
As these guys run side by side, it's just stacking up the field right behind. Oh,
trouble, George Anzaldo. George Anzaldo's around, caution is out, and that's going to end his night. These cars, you cannot fix the wings, and that car is very damaged. And let's take another look. It looked like George just kind of missed his spot here as he came up out of the corner. Sage Karam in front of him, and they came out of the dog leg, and I'm not sure if that was net code or what, but around went George.
Yeah, it looks like George just gets a really good run on Sage coming off this corner. He's going to go down into the dog leg, and yeah, just don't know. Oh, it looks like Sage had to check up a little bit, and it caught George maybe a little off guard.
I think you're exactly right. That is what happened. It looks like for some reason Sage lost a lot of speed there. He went from 163 to 150 and then got back in the throttle. So I don't know if Sage maybe didn't like what he saw in front of him or what, but either way, an unfortunate situation that ends George Anzaldo's night on lap number 8. First caution of the evening here in the Lionheart Retro Series, presented by Butt Kicker, and this is the second oval race of the year. The series started, of course, at Homestead Miami Speedway, and a race that was won by Alex Saunders over Nate Lewis and George Anzaldo, who finished 3rd in that race, so no doubt disappointing for George there. Ken Hacker, Sage Karam, that was the top 5 when this series opened the year at Miami, Homestead Miami Speedway, which has become kind of the normal opening round for both Lionheart series. No takers on pit road here. Not surprising. We're not in the fuel window, and as Richie talked about extensively, tires not really an issue for these race cars. In fact, oftentimes these cars perform much better as you wear the tires out. It kind of helps them free up. And Richie, I wonder, you talked about, the narrow front tires and how much front downforce these cars need. I wonder, does the wear on the tires, does that play a factor in why the car gets better? Because there's kind of less, mechanical grip, so to speak, and so it lets the car kind of float through the corner better and help those front tires?
I think it just kind of balances the car out front to rear a little bit better, as you can see, as you got the big rear tires, small little tires, and I don't know, as it wears, just kind of balances out and the fuel burns down. Car just kind of handles better and better as we go. Plus, like I say, when they come in and change tires, it's not the fastest pit stop in the world. So track position is everything on the oval.
Working lap 11, pace lights already out on that Ford Mustang iRacing pace car, and it's Taft Baldwin who will lead things back to the green. Single file restarts in both Lionheart Racing series here. 163 laps to go when they take the green in the Sam Maxwell Customs 175. The second the pace car makes the move, the field belongs to the leader and pole sitter Taft Baldwin, who will wait and wait and wait until the green comes out. Watch for the checkup at the back of the field. That is classic oval strategy. Baldwin off into turn one with Wardlow. They pull away from Clymer in third, and so far everybody seems to have gotten through that restart clean.
Saw a move by Sage Karam there in the back. If you were looking, he pulled onto the inside of Big Joe, take that position, so he took advantage of that restart as everybody was single file, and that's kind of what you have to do, take advantage of when you can get it. Everybody's single file at the moment, but I assume I'm expecting to see Dustin Wardlow start challenging Taft Baldwin like he was doing before that yellow flag.
Dustin Wardlow making his 39th start in the Retro Series, 2 prior wins, including at Indianapolis Motor Speedway in his first season, in the first year of this series. He won at New Hampshire last year, so you talk about a track that has maybe some similarities to this track. He's able to pass Alex Saunders late in the event to win at New Hampshire. Meanwhile, Wardlow under pressure from David Clymer. A battle for second right now. Clymer, with a good run on the inside, has allowed David Altman to also sneak up into the picture.
Yeah, Taft Baldwin able to run the line that he wants. Low on the bottom, high on the exit. And Dustin Wardlow really trying to work the outside line, and he's able to hold off David Clymer, but David keeps poking his nose in. They're trying to get some clean air on that front wing. Meanwhile, Sage Karam looking to the bottom of David Altman, not able to complete it just yet, but he's definitely making a charge to the front as we see now Dustin Wardlow looking to the bottom.
Of the cars in the top 15, Karam has been the biggest mover, up 4 spots from 9th to 5th. Big Joe Hassert and Mardi Gras Dean Mole both up 3 spots as well inside of the top 10 right now, and Karam was unable to complete the move on Altman, but it's going to make another run here down the front straightaway as Wardlow continues to kind of hit the invisible wall on the outside of Baldwin. But Karam to the inside of Altman. Looks like he will get the job done through the kink and into turn 3. Sage Karam shuts the door on David Altman, and here comes Ken Hacker trying to take advantage as well. That was awfully close.
Yeah, I mean, Sage Karam didn't do David Altman any favors by just chopping right up in front of him, and that opened the door for Ken Hacker, but David Altman able to hold on to that 5th position, but Sage Karam's on the move. We're still seeing Taft Baldwin run to that bottom line. In turns 1 and 2, it's kind of where you want to be, but I assume I'm expecting to see as we get through this race, see that high groove in 3 and 4 to work as Dustin Wardlow is working it right now.
Dustin Wardlow has been awfully close to leading this race on a few occasions, but so far Taft Baldwin has tripped the beams first every time they've come across the start-finish. This time by, we'll start working lap number 20, and again, Wardlow with a big run up out of the corner, but Baldwin will get to the stripe first. Meanwhile, look out David Clymer. Here comes Sage Karam on the top side trying to follow Wardlow around, and I tell you what, if Sage can get up there to third, that's going to put some pressure on the Candyman, because you know Sage is not going to want to just sit and ride in that third position.
Sage wants to get to the front, gets that clean air on the car and kind of dictate the race. So he's pushing pretty hard to get around David Clymer as he's done. And kind of chops him down into turn 1, takes the line away from him. That's allowed David Altman to come on and challenge David Clymer. But here comes Sage Karam, man. He got a really great run off of 2, right up on the backside of Dustin Wardlow, but now he sees that track is blocked.
Ken Hacker, a big push out of the corner. Here comes Mark Cohn to the outside. That's a battle for the 6th spot. Big Joe Hassert sticks his nose in there, and the Thumbs Up Cancer Down car in 8th as well. Ryan Otis is right there now in 9th, and Mardi Gras Mole up there into the 10th spot. I've missed the first couple races, so if you haven't been with us, or if you didn't see the All-Star race, Brian Yazik and I dubbed Dean Mole Mardi Gras, because if you look at his car, it looks like it got shot out of a cannon at a Mardi Gras parade.
As you can see, Sage Karam really looking for somewhere to go. He is all over the back of these two, and Dustin Wardlow is kind of blocking him and holding that spot. Got to give a shout out to Dylan McKenna up a bunch of spots, 7 spots or 6 spots from 21st to 15th. So nicely done to him. But up front, it is Taft Baldwin, Dustin Wardlow, side by side as we've done from the beginning, and Sage Karam looking to bully his way through at any time.
I think Sage would be willing, even though it's only lap 24. I think he wouldn't mind shoving the nose in there and trying to make this deal go 3 wide in the middle. And maybe try to break up the party up front. He keeps kind of taking a peek and hasn't quite had a big enough opening, but it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, he's definitely trying hard to get around, and there's no open. Oh, we got to spin. We got to spin off of 2.
Caution's out.
Yeah, I think it was Big
Joe.
Joe. Yeah, he spun. He didn't hit anything, but he definitely kind of hooked the car off the corner, which is typical here as those tires wear out.
Contact with Ken Hacker.
Yeah, drifted up wide and tried to yank it down to keep from hitting him, and he has spun out.
Ken pushed up really bad. If you watch the whole corner, you get a good shot here from Joe's perspective. But Ken really sailed it into one on the outside of Mark Cohn, and he pushed up and lifted. And I mean, his just way off the pace from what Joe was, and Joe pushed her right into it. Ryan Otis had a moment here as well.
Just a little bit of a tap there as Ryan Otis kind of just picked a lane and just went for it. No harm, no foul. Just Joe's going to lose some spots. Yellow flag. We'll see if we get any takers.
There are a few.
Well, just a couple in the back. You know, if I was in the back half of this field, this is the time I would probably take that pit stop, as we're already working lap 27 and
Dean Mole,
get off a sequence.
Justin Kirby, George Sandman, Big Joe is in, Robert Bluen, as well as Chris Walker, Chad Dalton, Josh Gaiman, Travis Jagerleiner. There's Tyson Landis, Adam Young. That completes all the cars that are on pit road. And you talked about it, Richard. We said in pre-race that it was somewhere between 58 and 60 on a good run. So if you figure that gets you to 120, you know, you're a little short, but if you count caution laps, you know, you get 2 or 3 more cautions here over the course of the rest of the race, and you can do it on one more stop. This may end up being a beneficial move as far as track position. You talked about how much track position could mean. Get another caution here in 30 laps, and everybody else comes in, and you go from 30th to the lead.
Yeah, so when you're in the back of the pack or midfield and you can't get around anybody, sometimes you have to take a chance. I've been proven wrong many, many times on these broadcasts, but I don't think we're going to go green the rest of the way.
By the way, Dustin Wardlow is officially your race leader. When Big Joe went around and the caution came out, iRacing said Wardlow's nose was poked out in front. So Dustin Wardlow becomes your first or second leader of this race, and officially that took effect on lap 25. And so now an opportunity for Wardlow to kind of dictate events here. As we saw, Taft Baldwin was able to fend off both Wardlow and Sage Karam for the first 25 laps of this one. It'll be very interesting to see how the pole sitter does now that he will be in traffic.
Yeah, absolutely. See if he can run in the top line the whole time. The real key is watching Sage Karam. He's been real hungry to get by these two. We're going to be starting single file, and it's going to give an opportunity to him to at least get one position as we go green soon and head into turn 1.
You are watching the Sim Experience 175, Sam Maxwell Customs 175, from ISM Raceway. I'm staring at his name right here. For nearly a decade, Sam Maxwell Customs has taken pride in customizing racing wheels for the sim racing enthusiasts. Each order built with precision and craftsmanship, ensuring the highest quality in sim racing wheels and accessories. A steering wheel is the primary interface for sim drivers. Wouldn't you want the best? Get yours today at sammaxwellcustoms.com. Big shout out to Mark Cohn, who is currently rolling around up there in the 6th position. On board with him in the Sam Maxwell Customs onboard. George Sandman also in the Sam Maxwell Customs onboard. And Finian Tuna in the plasmatracks.com on board for our race here today. But Mark Cohn is the one who made the introduction with the Sam Maxwell, and a great partner of the Lionheart series so far this year. Pace car pulls off. The Candyman Dustin Wardlow on the loud pedal right away and just hammers Taft Baldwin. Sage Karam, watch out, had to check up. That could be a black flag. Sage's nose poked out in front. This will be interesting to see as David Altman now to the outside of Karam. That's the battle for the third position, and Dustin Wardlow has checked out from everybody else as a result of that kind of wild restart there. Wardlow out to about a second lead. I hear race control on the radio. Let's see what the ruling is.
Yeah, by rule, you cannot pass the car in front of you on the inside before the start-finish line. So I don't know if Sage Karam did, but he definitely recognized he was close, so he had to check up and get back behind Taft Baldwin.
And Richie, that doesn't even have to be a race control decision. The sim will penalize you for that on its own. So, and if the sim penalizes you, there's nothing race control can do about it. They will honor that penalty. Meanwhile, battle for the fourth spot. It's Clymer inside of Altman. He will take the spot for now. Mark Cohn is there, sticking his nose in with that Sam Maxwell Customs entry to the inside of Altman.
Dustin Wardlow holding the inside line through 3 and 4, right down the middle of the track, down the straightaway, not giving Taft Baldwin any opportunity to get on the inside of him. Meanwhile, Sage Karam closing up on the back of Taft Baldwin. So we got a group of 3 for the lead, and then right behind them, David Altman's got a hungry group of cars trying to take that 4th spot from him.
Dean Mull had a penalty from pit stops, and Chris Walker was just assessed one as well. Both drive-through penalties. That will be a killer. Walker is on pit road right now. There's a good look at that number 33 car, and needless to say, the Michigan driver is going to really struggle to compete in this one now that he has had to pit. Dean Mull came out and lost a lap. Chris Walker has lost a lap now as well. So the battle will be on. In fact, Walker is coming right back down onto pit road in that 33 car. So not sure what the issue there is, but we'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, just we're watching that battle for second place. Sage Karam's gone low, gone high. He's now going high, trying to squeeze off Taft Baldwin. He's going to get that position as we cross the finish line. Oh, it just does a nice heavy block on Taft Baldwin. So Sage is not driving just kindly right now. He's just trying to bully his way through, and that's fine. You know, it's his prerogative to do that. But he has now moved himself from 9th starting position all the way up to 2nd place.
I was going to say, he's certainly not afraid to shut the door. You and I have both experienced on more than one occasion the heartbreak that can be caused by our good friend Netcode, who tends to play a bigger outcome in these races than anything else sometimes. He's cutting it a little close for what I would be comfortable with at this stage in the race, just because Netcode can be so bad, especially in this car, but it's working for him so far. Sage started 9th, he's up to 2nd.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That Netcode can bite you without warning, but Sage doing a good job. He's obviously on the aggressive side, and that's fine. He's not doing anything illegal. He's just kind of just making it happen, but he is wanting that lead very badly from Dustin Wardlow, so he's looking outside, inside. Dustin Wardlow not giving him the inside. He's driving right down the middle of the straightaway, and he's going to make Sage earn this on the outside.
Lap 39 of 175, the Sam Maxwell Customs 175 here at ISM Raceway in Phoenix. And the Lionheart Retro Series, if you recall, a couple of weeks ago, the Lionheart IndyCar Series presented by First Medical Equipment right here at ISM Raceway. Your finishing order, 1-2, was identical to how they run right now. Dustin Wardlow was able to hold off Sage Karam and pick up his first IndyCar Oval win here at ISM Raceway in the Lionheart Series. So history may be repeating itself right now as we work our way through and come up on about a quarter of the way through this event right now.
And what you said earlier there, Jason, is basically coming true. It looks like it's really tough to pass. I mean, I know Sage has made some passes, but watching the group behind them, everybody's kind of single filed out and really struggling to find any kind of grip to make that run. We're getting closer to the end of the run, so the cars are getting lighter, and hopefully we'll see some green flagged pit stops, as Sage is definitely non-stop harassing Dustin Wardlow, and going off what you just talked about, is maybe that's on his mind right now.
These two are friends, by the way. They spend time together in the same channel in Race Control, or in Discord. If you're tuning in on the iRacing Esports Network and you're maybe not 100% familiar, you never sat behind the wheel of one of these L79s or raced in a league, there's a program a lot of the series use called Discord that we're using for broadcast right now, and you have team channels. Sage usually in the same team channel as Wardlow. I don't know if that's the case tonight, but on the IndyCar side of things, Sage will hang out in there. The two of them talked about it after the Phoenix IndyCar race, that they were able to kind of bounce things off each other. It was kind of a coy game that they both talked about, to where they both wanted to help each other, but they didn't want to give the other one too much information because there was some fuel strategy on the line, and that's how that race played out. It ended up being really interesting, dynamic. If you listened to the post-race interviews or read the post-race recap on Lionheart Racing Series website. So I'd be interested to see if these two are maybe working together a little bit tonight as well. Sage has kind of calmed down and backed off of Dustin here. He's running the higher line for clean air, but he's not really pushing the Dolores Candy driver at this time.
I mean, you say I just went and checked on those channels, and Sage is in their channel, not knowing whether he's talking or not, but he is connected to Wardlow, so he's definitely, I'm sure he's not talking to him too much, but he's on their channel.
Taft Baldwin, David Altman going at it for the third position. You can see out the rear wing of Dustin Wardlow's L79 there behind Sage Karam. It's Altman up top and Baldwin down low, and David Altman able to take the third position at the line. And maybe now the tire's starting to play a factor there, Richie. As you saw, Taft Baldwin could not hold the bottom. It was Altman able to get the momentum run up top, and now I think Mark Cohn saw that and said monkey see, monkey do maybe, except for able to pull back in under Baldwin here. Taft Baldwin going the wrong direction right now.
Yeah, right now he's being challenged by Mark Cohn, and going the shortest distance around the track is fastest when the tires are good, but right now it looks like you just need to free that car up by going up a little bit higher and letting that car exit off of turn 2 especially. David Altman was able to get the run on him, pinch him down, and take that position, and now he's trying to close in on Sage Karam for second.
Baldwin able to hold off Mark Cohn right now. David Clymer and Ken Hacker are there as well, back to 7th. Then a little bit of a gap to Rhino. This is Chris Lanini's 9th, and then a kind of a bigger gap back to James Paulson in 10th. And Paulson has a line of cars trying to get around him, led by Dylan McKenna. Richie, you pointed out earlier, has been one of the drivers that has been most impressive so far. Dylan McKenna started 21st. He's up to 11th, and right behind him, you see Finian Chuna, who started 25th and is up to 13th. So there are some drivers that are proving passes can be made, at least deeper in the field, where maybe there's a bigger disparity between the lap time.
A big checkup here as they're going 3 wide into turn 1. Oh, no!
That's a huge wreck. Darren Ganji, JP Winshittle. Boy, this is going to take a lot of cars. A lot of cars. Justin Kirby.
Yeah,
Mike Rigney's involved.
Goal flags out, so you can see her go 3 wide, and he just gets such a run in there and then just drifts up and doesn't realize the car is on the outside of him right there. Wow, we just collected about 6 cars in that wreck.
It almost looked like Ganji's car bobbled a little, Richie, on entry. Like he was so low that maybe he turned the wheel too much, and this car will have a tendency to kind of step out, and he went straight into Frank Beeser trying to chase it. And unfortunately, Mike Rigney had nowhere to go. Ron Hacker looks like had nowhere to go as well.
Rigney's right meat in the sandwich. When you see that car going, he goes in so fast that you just can't get slowed down. Unfortunately, Darren Ganji's on the outside to stop him. We are getting some pit stops here. We're in that window, lap 50. Everybody's coming in.
There's a lot of cars out of the race after that one. We'll update you after the caution and able to see who's able to actually continue here. Leaders coming down. Dustin Wardlow will be one of the last cars in. Sage Karam's going to hit that pit stall awfully early and have kind of an advantageous spot here to maybe get a run out. Lionheart Series does have a rule, 3 entry boxes in and 3 out. If you hit the 4th box, you'll get penalized. So let's watch Sage here. Looks like Sage is out pretty clean. Will Wardlow beat him? No. New leader, Sage Karam off of pit road first.
Yeah, Sage Karam was right on his rear gearbox and came in, made a great stop. And, you know, that's the easiest pass you can make is by making those passes in the pits. So, new leader, Sage Karam.
Let's take a commercial break. We'll be back. Lap 53 at ISM Raceway.
The Sim Pit is an entertainment channel dedicated to the world of simulated motorsports. The Sim Pit is a leader in providing the sim racing community with news, reviews, interviews, DIY pieces, and instructional videos to make sim racing a better experience for all. Check us out at thesimpit.com or go to YouTube and just search for The Sim Pit.
Back at ISM Raceway, pace car about to pull in. It's Big Joe Hassert, George Sandman, and Chad Dalton. Chris Walker also out in front of Sage Karam. 4 cars that did not hit pit road. Walker is a lap down. Green flag is out. Joe Hassert's thumbs up cancer down car like it was shot out of a cannon pulls out in front of this one. And Big Joe, who spun earlier to bring out a caution, is now the race leader. Kind of took advantage of that incident there. George Sandman and Chad Dalton, your top 3, and already Sage Karam blowing by Chris Walker. Dustin Wardlow trying to come as well. First battle side by side is back in the 7th spot between David Altman, Mark Cohn, Taft Baldwin as well. It's really 6th, 7th, and 8th. You see them going into 1. Ken Hacker and Ryan Otis are there as well. Up front, all single files still as Sage starts to try to run down Chad Dalton. And up front for the lead, Joe Hassert running the high line, keeping George Sandman at bay for the time being. So, working lap 58, we're now officially 1/3 of the way through the Sam Maxwell Custom 175 here at ISM Raceway, and that is Chad Dalton in the red car and Sage Karam, the purple and orange and white livery on that number 3 car. Up top is you're on board now with George Sandman. And the Sam Maxwell Customs entry, that HPP car looks out the rear wing and sees that, here comes Sage. Already around Dalton. Chris Walker, the lap car, trying to go around Dalton as well. And here comes Dustin Wardlow, who is not going to want to waste any time as he watches Sage kind of pull away now. But Wardlow, frankly, is blocked. Nothing he can do about that. So Big Joe leads over Sandman and Karam, and we'll keep it here on board now with the Candyman. Bakersfield's Dustin Wardlow, DeWars Candy entry. Some of the best chews in the world. We know that Soup has certainly raved about those enough. I'm here to tell you that their ice cream is killer. but you need to come to Kern County in Central California to get it. My house is always open. If you're here to get into wars, I'll happily host you. That's an open invite to all our league members. Wardlow around Dalton up to the 4th spot. Chris Walker's the lap car in front of Wardlow. Back up front, here comes Sage. Starting to reel in Big Joe and Sandman. The lead right now, 1/10 of a second for Joe back to Sandman, and then another 1/2 second to Sage Karam, but that is dwindling mighty quick as Big Joe kind of runs that defensive line around the middle and inside of the track.
Yeah, as we can see, that strategy working out for Big Joe and George Sandman, as Sage Karam was the previous leader, but sometimes you got to take a chance, and now Sage is running into that same problem he had earlier, as these two drivers are kind of, especially George, is kind of running the high line, low line, and there's just nowhere to go for Sage. Got a long ways to go. We'll see how it plays out. And we're back to where Sage is in front of Dustin Wardlow, but they got to deal with Big Joe and George Sandman.
Big Joe Hassert spun out earlier, caused a caution, inherited the lead about 10 laps ago under caution. And he's going to need a little bit of help to make it the distance. Same with George Sandman, who pit, and same with Chad Dalton. They'd all had pit earlier. Each of them are going to need, I would guess, probably 2 more, if not 3 more total cautions spread out over the course of this race if they're going to make it on just 1 more stop. But stranger things have happened, and in this car, it's actually, I find, Richie, I don't know your experience, but I've found it's a lot easier to conserve fuel for whatever reason in this race car than it is in the Indy car.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of experience in the other Indy car, surprisingly, but yeah, you can save fuel pretty easily if you just lift at the right moment and just kind of coast into the corner. Although this track's flat out, so when you're running for the lead, it's kind of hard to do. Honestly, I don't think this is going to play out too much until we get to about lap 120, 115, 125, right around that area. Then we'll kind of see where everybody's at on their fuel numbers.
I just heard somebody coming off a pit road there. It was Justin Kirby, who is severely damaged and running down on the apron right now. I'm not sure Justin realized it. It's going to be awfully hard for that nice man to continue this race with the rear wing that looks like that.
Rear wing like that, front wing like that, and right front tire pointing the wrong way. So he's got a damaged car. So you might want to pull in, because at some point you're going that slow. You're just kind of not really helping everybody else.
Yeah, race control will stay on that. There is a 107% rule in the Lionheart series on ovals, 110 on road courses. What that means is your lap time needs to be within 107% on an oval or 110% on a road course of what is perceived to be the leading pace. So the reason the rule is kind of written or discussed that way is because you get some drivers that we refer to in the Lionheart world as aliens. You know, Sage Karam gets on a road course and he's a half second quicker than everybody. Probably not fair to judge it up against that. But in this case, on the oval, you look at the times that Big Joe and Sandman and Sage are running right now. They're on the 23-1, so if you figure 107% of that, if you're not within that, race control will park you for the reason Richie just talked about. You do not want to be navigating lap traffic on a track like this that are 30 mile an hour off the pace.
Yeah, I mean, you're just not really doing it. It can't be any fun either, and so sometimes you just got to call it a day. Looking at the top 3, we got Big Joe, George Sandman, Sage Karam, but right in between them, we have Chris Walker is kind of in between Sage Karam and Dustin Wardlow, so that's not helping Dustin any time with his front grip. So, Chris has every right to be there, but it's kind of mixed the group up a little bit. Right behind Dustin Wardlow, we got Chad Dalton. Looks like everybody's kind of settling down a little bit, not taking too many risks as we're getting kind of to the middle of this race.
Dalton was one of those drivers that did not pit along with Big Joe and Sandman, so lighter fuel, that will factor in this car as well. This car burns fuel at a pretty high clip, and fuel obviously weighs quite a bit, 10 pounds or so per gallon. So as the cars burn off more fuel, Dalton might actually have a little bit of an advantage on Wardlow as this run goes on, being lighter. Chris Walker is 3 laps down. He's the only car running that is not on the lead lap. Right now we do have 8 cars that are out of this race. Justin Kirby, Ryan Corns, Mike Rigney, Robert Bluen, JP Winshittle, Darren Gange, Scott Holmes, George and Zaldo. We just talked about Kirby. Kirby and Corns are both kind of trying to run some laps, but are not going to make it. So all of them involved in incidents, all of them out of contention in this one. Chris Walker at 3 laps down for all intents and purposes is not in contention to win, just trying to pick up spots and gain experience. And who better to gain experience from than Big Joe and George Sandman and Sage Karam, some of the best drivers that the iRacing service has to offer in open wheel race cars.
Yeah, as we go through the field here, everybody's starting out in the front, but right now we got a hell of a battle between Mark Cohn and Ken Hacker. These guys are battling neck and neck for that 8th, 9th position. So, oh man, Mark Cohn really chopped down on Ken Hacker going into 1, and you can see how he washes up and kind of loses that momentum, and he's got a bunch of cars behind him. So right now Mark Cohn's just leading this train around, doing everything he can to hold them off.
This is an interesting group here, Richie. I got to tell you, 3 drivers who have earned a reputation as being incredibly difficult to pass. And Dakuna, look out! Caution, big wreck. Otis is in it. Oh no,
Otis.
James Paulson as well.
Yeah, I was just kind of watching that. These guys are checking up, and unfortunately, Dakuna has an issue, kind of brings everybody in. Doesn't look like a lot of damage on some of the cars, but it's definitely going to stack the field up, and we're going to bring out a yellow.
Yeah, Chris Lanini got the worst of that. As Lanini slowed down, he made a little bit of contact with Ryan Otis. He might have been okay, but then James Paulson plowed into the back of him, and Lanini's car just took the wall out, basically.
Yeah,
Tough break.
Man. It looked like Ryan Otis was trying to make a pass on Dakuna, or I don't know who that was in front of him, but he had to check up, and Dakuna just kind of didn't and ran right into the back of Ryan and spun him out, and that causes all sorts of incidents, including Chris Lanini.
That's the second time in this race that we have seen an incident like that, Richie, where somebody has checked up and it's caused an incident. Earlier it was Sage Karam and George Anzaldo early on, as pit stops for Big Joe Hassard and George Sandman. I believe we'll see Dalton on pit road as well. Those are the 3 cars that had stayed out under the last caution. All 3 of them are in now, and this is not quite to the window that they're going to need. So things kind of didn't play out in their favor there, Richie.
Not at the moment, but you never know. I mean, they're definitely off sequence, so they can get back out there, and if another yellow flag comes out, or if it doesn't, what they're hoping for right now is a really long green flag lap or run and make all these guys pit under green. You pit under green here, you're going to lose a lap for sure. So they're kind of throwing the dice out there and just see what comes up, and you never know sometimes. That's going to put Sage Karam out into the front of the pack with Dustin Wardlow right behind him. So we're kind of going back to the normal order of things before that other last yellow flag came. But let's keep an eye on those guys a little later. If we go a long run here, it's going to really play out to Big Joe and George Sandman. If it doesn't, you got to try sometimes. And so we'll kind of keep an eye on them as we go along.
Richie, why don't we go to our driver profile of the week here in the Lionheart Retro Series presented by Butt Kicker, and a driver right now who finds himself having an interesting day. He's back in the 19th spot, actually 13th spot after starting 19th. Frank Bieser on board with Frank here, a great friend of the Lionheart Series, one of those Texas drivers, and Frank tonight making his 37th start. He's still searching for his first top 10, but has been a loyal competitor in this series since Season 1, Race 1 at Homestead. His best finish of 20th in championship points. One of the dearest friends I know of George Anzaldo, the league founder, the Firefly Racing entry for Frank Bieser, is really just a great guy, and has definitely had his ups and downs, but has stuck with it. I think commendable there that he's continued to learn and improve and want to get better, and right now finds himself in 13th spot. So maybe this is the night that he breaks into the top 10 for the first time.
Yeah, it's people like that that make these series great. Just kind of stick with it, have some fun. Only one person can win, and so you can't like rely on that. And you just got to get out there, enjoy it, get better each week. And he's in a good position to maybe get that first top 10.
Richie, you got to give that pep talk to like about 26 of us that we can't win every week.
Hey, listen, I've done every race I've done this year. I've crashed myself out, so
I was there with you. I was there with you until Phoenix last week in the IndyCar. Pace cars off. Sage Karam, the leader, lap 80, green flag back out, and Karam and Wardlow just tree, to use a drag racing term, the rest of the field there. Big old hole shot off into turn one. The two of them have already opened up a half a second gap on the pole sitter, Taft Baldwin, David Altman and Mark Cohn, and then another big gap back. Then DeChuna and Ken Hacker were kind of going at it there. Finian did not get penalized to this point for that caution with Ryan Otis, and I think that's going to be because of Otis's checkup. So DeChuna gets away with one there, so to speak, and now has a chance to try to make a move on Ken Hacker. And you can see just in front of them, Mark Cohn and David Altman are side by side.
Those guys are fighting pretty hard for that fourth, fifth position as Mark Cohn's able to take that spot from David Altman. Now that Sage Karam's out in the lead, it'll be interesting to see what he can do. He's not able to pull away just yet from Dustin Wardlow, but he's got a bunch of people behind him that are really hungry, including Taft Baldwin, who's our pole sitter and previous leader. But Mark Cohn's done a good job. Started 8th all the way up to 4th. Be able to make those passes on the track and looking good.
David Altman has a mirror full right now of Ken Hacker. They came off a turn 4 and nearly got together as you're on board with Mark Cohn and the Sam Maxwell Customs ride. Mark from up in the Napa Valley area of California. Talk about an area where it doesn't suck to live.
Yeah, David Altman's been busy out there and all race long, and he has about 4 cars looking really strong trying to get by him, as Ken Hacker's going to go right down to the bottom line and try to get by him in 1 and 2. He's going to have that momentum, take the shortcut through the kink, and it looks like he's might be able to get it done here. And nope, David Altman's going to challenge him on the outside, as you can see right in front of us, and that's basically Finian just has nowhere to go.
Boy, Ken and David they're doing everything they can to hit each other in the wall without actually doing it.
And this battle rage. We got
easily
up
best
top.
Battle.
Yeah, by far the best battle. Side by side through 3 and 4 down the front stretch. And we go into 1 and 2. And this is kind of where it's really tough to hold that inside line. And if you can get that momentum on the outside, you can carry it. But Ken Hacker doing a great job being able to hold that line and keep the momentum up.
All Jenkins is the black and gold car taking a look inside of Finian as well. Out the rear wing, you look of Ken Hacker.
And David Altman almost hit the wall coming off a 3, as you saw on screen, and had to kind of back out of it. That gave Ken Hacker the spot. Also right behind him, Paul Jenkins looking to take that spot from Finian, and he chops him off at the exit of the corner and takes it from him.
Up front, taking a look at the leaders. Still the same old song and dance with Sage Karam and Dustin Wardlow leading the way. But it's Mark Cohn who's made a move on Taft Baldwin and has moved into a podium position. How big will this be for Mark Cohn in the Sam Maxwell Customs car and his title sponsors title race? And right now, Cohn in the 3rd spot and has a chance to go up and race with 2 of the best the Lionheart series have to offer and maybe push for his first win in either of the 2 Lionheart series. As we work lap number 90, we are officially past halfway of this one, and we got a battle for the 4th position as well. Baldwin under attack. Here comes good old Ken Hacker to the inside into turn 1.
We've seen some of these guys that started a little bit farther back, top 10 or whatever, late top 10, and starting to make some quality passes. Mark Cohn being one of them. Started 8th up to 3rd, and he's really looking to challenge Dustin Wardlow. And then same thing with Ken Hacker. He started 7th, looking to take the spot away from our pole sitter, Taft Baldwin. He's got the inside line going into turn 1.
David Altman, Paul Jenkins, both taking advantage of this. Back here comes Finian, Chuna as well. They've all kind of separated themselves from Dylan McKenna.
Up front, Sage Karam, I'm surprised that he hasn't, as strong as he was early on, he hasn't been able to pull away. So he is the leader in this train, but he is stacking up the field behind him. So he's not as strong as I thought he was. And Dustin Wardlow's really looking to get around on the outside, but he's got to worry about Mark Cohn going on the inside. Right behind them, Ken Hacker, same thing, going right down the middle of the straightaway, trying to keep Taft Baldwin and David Altman behind him.
Richie, you talked about it earlier. These cars were not built ever to run on an oval, smaller front tires and rear tires, obviously. I think a big part of that as well is the transmission in this car, the gearbox. It kind of tends to top itself out. These cars have a really strong power band kind of low in the revs, but once you get them up towards the top of the RPM range, there's not a lot of torque. And so I could see where with Sage being out in front, he's kind of hitting that proverbial wall, and that the RPMs are kind of maxed out, and there's nothing else he can really do with a fixed setup race car. Things are what they are if you're the leader, and everybody else behind you can kind of take advantage of that hole that you're punching in the air and at least stick with you.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but you're right. When I did some practicing at Homestead early in the year, I kind of found that out. That you're right. It's all torque in these cars, but once you get by yourself and you're just maxed out, you got no way to keep pulling. It just kind of flattens off. So that's going to keep these guys behind them and allowing them to get in the draft and get those runs, but not able to quite get it done. So we talked about it earlier on. It's hard to pass here, and that might be one of the reasons why.
Ken Hacker has made it a 4-car dance for the lead right now. It's a foursome, and we're heading into Sunday in the Turn at Augusta and the Masters for these guys, at least for Ken Hacker and Mark Cohn, looking for their biggest wins, probably their iRacing careers, up there with Sage Karam and Dustin Wardlow right now. The top 4 have opened up about a half-second gap back to Taft Baldwin, who has some breathing room finally, back to David Altman as we work lap 98 of the Sam Maxwell Customs 175 here. This is ISM Raceway. Phoenix caution is out.
Got a car in the wall in turn 4. And it's Finian out there just bringing the caution out. It's going to slow this field down. So we watch the replay here. He's on the low end there. Gets together, spins, does a 360, and unfortunately pancakes the outside wall. Didn't really collect anybody else, but does bring out the yellow, and it's going to damage his car for the rest of the race.
It's David Clymer's sim pit entry on the outside, and maybe a little bit of netcode involved there, but Finian was definitely heading the wrong direction up the hill. And a great job, I got to tell you, there by Eric Block and Ron Hacker, both to miss Finian. The two of them split Finian, and I think we're getting on board here. Eric Block, boy, I hope he's got his Huggies on after that one.
Right? Yeah, he just had to make a decision and go with it. It just looked more like a racing incident. Both guys going for the same realty. Just kind of worked out. Unfortunately, it spun out Finian, and we got a yellow flag, so we'll see what happens with these pit stops.
Finian is in on pit road. Several cars are in right now. I see George Sandman back in, trying to top things off. But this is an interesting part of the race right here, Richie, because we're on lap 100 now. So I figure by the time we go green, we're going to have a little over 70 to go. We thought we could go 60 if you manage your fuel right on a full green flag run, which makes me wonder, 2 cautions maybe if you pit here and top it off? 2 cautions if you can go the distance. Everybody else out front's going to have to pit again. I think I might stop here, and I got to tell you what else I would do here. I would come in on 1 to green and top it off.
Well, a tough part out, if you're in the front like Sage and you pit and nobody else does, and then you're, okay, fuel mileage-wise, you're good, but then you're stuck in the back, and it's been hard to pass. So those guys up front are kind of handcuffed to the strategy, but somebody like George Sandman is not. So absolutely come in, top off, take the fuel, and it just opens up your window. And if we do go green, he's got more of a chance to catch the yellow. working lap 101 of 175. We got Sage Karam, Dustin Wardlow, Mark Cohn. Mark Cohn and Ken Hacker have been doing a tremendous job. They really fought their way up to that top 4. They're going to have to gather up and try to fight off Taft Baldwin, who is our pole sitter. Looks like he's been struggling a little bit in traffic. He was really good out front, but once he got past and got in traffic, he was struggling to find that groove.
See if the lights come off on the Mustang pace car here. They do. So we'll go green next time by at lap 103. Will mean that we will have 72 more laps to go. This is our 5th caution of the night. 72 laps when 60 is the limit. James Paulson, who's got some damage, is in. He's going to top off here, it looks like. I don't see anybody else who's in to top off, which kind of surprises me. I really thought if you're at the back, you're somebody like Ryan Otis, who had a spin earlier, Eric Block, who already pitted, George Sandman. Why not top off right there and make sure, just get you 3 laps closer?
No, I agree. And those two that we were watching earlier, Big Joe and George Sandman, well, George pitted and topped off. He's in 19th. Big Joe didn't. He's made his way up to 11th. So a little bit different story as we're getting ready to go green.
Sage Karam back on the loud pedal. Dustin Wardlow, Mark Cohn, Ken Hacker, David Altman. Taft Baldwin's your top 5. David Altman in 6th right now. They all did a nice job of kind of breaking away from the rest of the pack. Caution right away. Trouble in turn 1. Dylan McKenna.
And see what happened with Dylan. Looks like he's going to go down to the bottom and try to make that move. Might have been a little net code or a little bit just trying to avoid hitting the back of the car in front of him, and spins himself out. Didn't hit anybody, so he's able to continue. Regroup, re-rack the field. Yeah, it looks like he just kind of yanked on the wheel to keep from going up, and didn't look like he hit anything, so he'll be able to continue.
I've lived that feeling Dylan McKenna has right now. Phoenix in the IndyCar a couple weeks ago. I did the same thing. Got to turn 1 on cold tires, turned the wheel too hard, and around it went. Except for I took a couple other unfortunate victims with me and felt terrible about it. So Dylan kind of gets a second chance at this one. And we are on our 6th caution now on lap 105. So we'll have 70 to go this time around.
Can we get a shot of Ron Hacker? I want to give him a shout out. He's our big mover right now, starting 27th all the way up to 9th. So nice job to him. I mean, we got some laps to go, but him and Paul Jenkins as well, starting outside the top 20 all the way up in the top 10. So nicely done to both those guys.
Didn't look like we have any real takers on pit road right now. I'll be interested to see if we get anybody as they come 1 to green to maybe top off. Why don't we go ahead and take a quick break here as we work? No break. Stay in here. We're on the first lap still. That's why. We'll double check. That's the second time around. Sage is not coming. That's for sure. So far, it doesn't look like there's any takers. 10 cars deep. Big Joe maybe. Nope. No takers up front. All right. Now we'll take a break. Get a chance. Go refill your beverage. Hit the bathroom, come on back, don't miss the end of this one. 70 laps to go at ISM Raceway, the Sam Maxwell Customs 175. Lap 107 coming to 108. This is the Sam Maxwell Customs 175 from ISM Raceway on the iRacing Esports Network, presented by the Global Sim Racing Channel. I'm Jason Galvin. Richie Hearn in the broadcast booth with us tonight. It is Sage Karam leading the way with Dustin Wardlow and Mark Cohn right behind him. Green flag back in the air after our 6th caution of the night. The L79 scream off towards turn 1.
Oh,
and another
wreck.
caution.
Big wreck on the front straightaway, right in the middle of the field.
Started with David Clymer.
Yeah, we saw a couple people kind of check up and stack everybody up, and then we got Taft Baldwin hit the back of Ken Hacker, but behind him everybody stacked up, and I just think it just kind of just accordion effect right here. If we watch, go ahead and give it a shot on here, Ken Hacker here, and you're gonna see him go stop, and then right behind him he's going to get hit by Taft Baldwin, who stops, and then it just checks everybody up. And that's the beginning of it, and you'll see the end of it here in the back, and everybody going upside down.
I got to tell you, Richie, what I think might have happened. I'm riding on board right now with Ken listening, and when he goes to put his foot in the throttle, he's got no RPM. I think Ken was in a higher gear, saving fuel, and forgot to put it back into first on the restart. Because he puts his foot in the throttle with everybody else, and it's stuck down at about 4,500 RPM. Yeah. And as you and I both know, you put your foot in the throttle in this car, it goes.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It could have been just a little bit of an error. Unfortunately, it caused a lot of pain for everybody else. Getting a lot of pit stops coming in here. Everybody's coming in, taking this moment.
And this should be good to go now. That's kind of fortuitous caution for everybody here. The 8th of the evening. And a lot of drivers are going to have damage. Ken Hacker's going to be questionable here. Taft Baldwin's got front wing damage. And I'm going to try to kind of run you through who else might have issues here.
And let's point out, Dustin Wardlow beat Sage Karam out of the pits. So give us a change for position in the pit lane. And as we've seen before, the leader is able to control his field pretty well.
So Sage took the lead from Wardlow on pit road earlier, and now the roles have been reversed after what should be the final pit stop. 65 or so laps to go here. I guess, I don't know. We may need one more, depending on when we go green here. This could actually be really interesting to kind of keep track.
And I'm going to tell you what, I'm watching the replay of that pit stop, and what really got Dustin Wardlow that lead is that he was the 3rd pit stop in. So, by rule, you can go through 3 pit boxes, and he just pulled straight out, and Karam was around the outside, but he didn't have to make any move, and he just was able to shoot right out in the pit. Yeah, that's what got him that pit spot. That lead there was that pit box position.
Shortest distance, right? We've talked about it all race. Paid off in pit road as well.
Absolutely. It really comes down to the qualifying being in that spot. So he was able to go 3 spots without having to pull out legally. And there was the cone for the timing line, and that got him just in front of Sage Karam. And I'm sure Sage Karam is not happy about that.
I'm going to tell you right now, I've taken a look at the crash and kind of gathered my notes here. You're going to have Ryan Otis, Big Joe Hassert, Travis Yeager-Leonard, Ron Hacker, David Clymer, at least all have serious damage. Frank Beaster kind of ghosted through. So did Chad Dalton, so it'll be interesting to see if any of them pick up actual damage. Anybody who's iRaced before knows that it's kind of a hit or miss deal as far as ghosting damage goes. Looks like Chris Walker also has some heavy damage. Tyson Landis has some heavy damage. Eric Block. I mean, that took out 9 or 10 cars at least on the front straightaway.
Yeah, that was a bad spot. But here we go, going green with Eric Block leading them.
It's Eric Block, Josh Gaiman, Dylan McKenna, James Paulson, and then Dustin Wardlow in 5th spot. So the top 4 did not pit. As the green flag comes back out and a stack up again deep into the field because of the way that restart transpired. And Karam now will have an opportunity to maybe try to make a move on Wardlow as they work back through traffic. That's going to be Sage's best opportunity. Right away, Wardlow to the inside of James Paulson. Here comes Sage as well as Mark Cohn. All of them go around Paulson in turn 3.
Yeah, we do have Eric Block, Joshua Gaiman, Dylan McKenna, James Paulson. But Dustin Wardlow and Sage Karam and Mark Cohn are really the true leaders as far as the way the pit stops played out. So we'll see how that goes. And we've seen before that the leader can really dictate the pace of this race. And Sage is going to hitter here, Joshua Gaiman coming in.
Josh Gaiman, too many pit stalls, Richie. That was the call from Race Control on his previous pit stop, penalized for driving through too many stalls. Gets a drive-through. So from the 3rd position, has to...
So the top 3 and 4 are all kind of separated out, man. I mean, we got this crazy battle here in 5th spot with James Paulson, Eric Block. Basically, everybody's stacked up between the people that didn't pit and the people that did. Taft Baldwin's involved in there. Paul Jenkins, Ryan Otis, David Altman. He's gotten in front of James Paulson, he's moved to 5th, but from James Paulson on back, it's all 3 wide going into turn 1.
We've seen 3 wide backfire once already. And look at Ryan Otis, who was heavily involved in that big wreck. Doesn't seem to have any tangible damage from it. Up there in the 9th spot, working on Baldwin now. The gaggle continues.
Yeah, the gaggle continues back there. Meanwhile, it's letting the other drivers, Dustin Wardlow, Sage Karam, and Mark Cohn, kind of pull away. Right in front of them is Dylan McKenna, who's definitely off sequence. But Dustin Wardlow's trying to get by him and separate himself from Sage Karam. So it's really Wardlow, Karam, and Cohn with McKenna leading, but off sequence at the moment.
A couple of things to keep an eye on here, Richie. Dylan McKenna is 4 laps further along than Dustin Wardlow and the rest of the field, really, as far as pit stops go. But none of those were under green because we had that caution on the restart. So Dylan's basically 4 more pace laps of fuel older than everybody else, which is really going to stretch the limit. Also, Ken Hacker was one of the drivers who topped off coming back to the green. So Ken is 2 more laps to the positive, and here's a yellow, and that's pretty cool strategy out of it.
All right, Paulson causing the yellow, but you know what this is going to help out is Dylan McKenna. He's only a couple laps shorter than these guys, and this is going to save him. So really put him in the catbird seat. If he can hold off those guys, he's looking to do good. Started 21st all the way up to 1st. As we watch the replay there of James Paulson kind of losing it on his own, not hitting anything, but causing that yellow flag.
But he just turned down on Chris Walker, who was a lap car, but is trying to gain laps back. Chris has actually already gained 1 lap back, and Paulson just turned down on him there. And that's going to be a tough break for Paulson, who managed to not hit anything, so he should be okay. Does have a little bit of damage from an incident early on. You see the onboard here from George Sandman in that Sam Maxwell Customs onboard camera in the HPP simulation entry. Sandman has some serious front wing damage, by the way. Not sure which incident that came from, but that's going to hamper his ability to run up front. So we got somebody heading for pit road, couple cars. Eric Block is in. Frank Biester's in as well. So they want to make sure they're good to go on fuel.
Yeah, going back to George Sandman, we talked about him pitting off sequence, and maybe that was a good thing, but the danger was being in the back in case something did happen, and unfortunately that's what happened with him. He got some damage. He's a lap down. So it it kind of comes and goes. Sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the windshield.
Same thing for Big Joe Hassard, out of the race. He was like the 4th or 5th car into that big incident that happened on the restart on the front straightaway. And that just happens when sometimes, like you said, you make that gamble to go to the back and can come back and bite. We talk about the attrition and carnage in this race. Big Joe trying to coast around, so he's on the lead lap, I guess. So he's kind of cruising at the back of the pack. But there are 20 cars basically that are left kind of seriously running right now of the 33 we started.
Yeah, sometimes just gonna natural thinning of the field when we have this many cars in this tight of track, so it just kind of happens. Big Joe come in for pits, has damage, but he's running around 17th, last car in the lead lap. If he just kind of keeps it clean and there's another yellow, he could easily move up 4 or 5 spots, so he's not too bad. Really interesting about Dylan McKenna. I didn't see this one coming. He called that strategy pretty well. This yellow flag really helps him out, as this might be able to stretch him out to at least finish the race. And even if he gets passed and finishes in the top 5, that's going to be a big gain starting 21st.
I joked with you a little bit during the commercial break, but I said Dylan McKenna might have just pulled the spin and win because he was able to come in and top off and change his strategy. Little did I know that it would pay off so quickly, and here he is 20 or so laps later out in front of this one because we've had this huge string of cautions here. So this is going to be fun to watch. Dustin Wardlow and Sage Karam are not just going to sit back idly and let Dylan McKenna lead this race.
No, and if I was Dylan, I'd be happy to finish in the top 5 considering where he started. So, you might want to. I know you want to get your win, but sometimes you got to look in the bigger picture of things. And he's got a clean car. It is hard to pass, so we'll just see what happens.
Lights are out on the Mustang pace car, and Dylan McKenna is your leader. The Florida driver out in front of California's Dustin Wardlow and Pennsylvania-born Indy native Sage Karam in third. Mark Cohn, David Altman, that's the top 5. McKenna trying to steal one. 50 laps to go when they come across the line. The green flag is back out in the Sam Maxwell Customs 175, part of the Lionheart Retro Series presented by Butt Kicker. It's McKenna leading them off into turn 1, and Sage Karam gets a great jump on the restart around Wardlow. Here comes Mark Cohn as well. Cohn looking to move all the way up into second.
Yeah, Sage Karam were able to get on the inside of Dustin Wardlow, and that opened the door for Mark Cohn. Although Dustin Wardlow is able to hold that outside line, it's not over yet for that second position. Dustin's not willing to give it up just yet. Meanwhile, Dylan McKenna doing his thing, and the battle rages on for second spot.
Well, I tell you what, Karam had Wardlow all but cleared, and Dustin's managed to drive all the way back around the outside of Sage here as they head through turn 3. Awfully close there between Karam and Wardlow.
Yeah, really couldn't get much closer, but Dustin Wardlow really able to hold off Sage. He had lost that position, but he stayed true to that outside line, and he's taking it back, and now he's chasing down Dylan McKenna.
Travis Jaeger-Leonard, the last car on the lead lap in 17th, was just given a penalty for too many pit stalls as well. So if you see a car peel off on the pit road, it's likely the Indiana native serving that drive-through penalty. Out in front, Dylan McKenna kind of unpressured right now over Wardlow and Karam and Cohn, and then a little bit of a gap has developed back to David Altman in the 5th position. Paul Jenkins in 6th is up 18 spots.
Yeah, he's done a great job. He has definitely moved up, survived the carnage, but got to give a shout out to Ryan Otis, who he's only up to 7th, but he has been in some hectic battles and incidents, so he's able to stay true to that top 10. Everybody in the top 7 single file at the moment, with a little bit of a gap to our pole sitter, Taft Baldwin.
It even looks like Ryan Otis has a little bit of rear wing damage. He was hit pretty hard, remember, on that restart where Ken Hacker was in the wrong gear and caused everybody to wreck. So interesting that Ryan's been able to kind of hang up there. Mark Cohn inside of Sage Karam for the 3rd position.
Yeah, Sage Karam giving that inside line to Mark Cohn. Mark Cohn not able to make it happen as he kind of tucks back into the draft and then ducks back down to the low line. Looks like everybody's starting to look for that outside line a little bit to keep that momentum going as we get farther along into this race. Dustin Wardlow has definitely made that work to his advantage, holding off Sage Karam for 3rd place. and really looking to make it work on Dylan McKenna for the lead. Everybody's single file. I was going to say everybody's single file, not much happening. I mean, they're battling hard, but no moves. Sage Karam trying to find some clear air for that front wing. As they go through 3 and 4, you can see them all kind of fan out, trying to get some air on those front wings, get that front tire to turn for them. Interesting to see how there's like a gap building between Ryan Otis and Taft Baldwin. Taft Baldwin was our pole sitter, led a bunch of laps, but just really has struggled in the traffic part of this race.
About a second back from Otis in 7th to Baldwin in 8th. And Paul Jenkins is all over the back of David Altman now as well. You see the gap there. As a matter of fact, looks like Baldwin is going to have company from Dean Moll soon. But there's the 3 cars we just talked about. That kind of second pack right now, 5th through 7th, Altman, Jenkins, and Otis. And it seems like Altman is the one who's kind of holding that group up for the time being.
Yeah, I've seen that it's been tough to pass in normal conditions without something happening. So that's why we're seeing everybody kind of single file, even though one car's a little slower in front. It's hard to get that outside line or inside line going. And you really have to work to make those passes happen. Looks like we've got 16 cars on the lead lap. Big Joe still hanging on to that lead lap. 16th. He's got a heavily damaged car, but he's doing a good job just trying to finish the race out, get as many points as he can.
Travis Jagerlener has decided to call it a night after receiving that penalty, so he has pulled himself out of this race. Tough break for Jagerlener there. And up front, Dustin Wardlow starting to look to the high side of Dylan McKenna. Maybe deciding he doesn't want to wait until the end of the race to see if he has something for the leader.
Yeah, well, the problem that Dustin has is he's got Sage Karam right on his tail. And Sage is not let go of Mark Cohn. Mark Cohn is right there. So all these guys not only having to worry about the car in front and getting around, but worry about the car behind and to hold them up.
Well, I thought Wardlow was going to sneak low on McKenna right there. He took a look.
Yeah, he did take a look, but it's hard to get that car to turn. So I think the move is going to come from the outside. So you just got to keep working it, keep working it. You can see him staying out up high, keeping that air on that front wing. That's how he held off Sage Karam. He's been doing this all race long.
If I recall last year, the move that I made around Adam Blocker for the race win had something to do with, it was Adam or Brian. They were both out in front with us there. They were running the low line like Dylan is here. And at one point, I just kind of ran high in 3 off kind of the right rear tire and cut it down off of 4 and just forced my way kind of underneath, basically up against the pit wall. But that, I got to tell you, it puts you in a precarious spot come turn 1 if you're way down there by the pit wall.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way to do it. But if you're way down there by the pit wall and he starts to squeeze you down, then both of you are in a tough spot. So still a long ways to go. We're only 141. We got about 34 laps to go. Dustin has time. And, running that high line is also keeping Sage behind him as well. So he's probably not too desperate yet, but he's going to be desperate pretty soon.
And remember, still, Dylan is 4 laps further out of the fuel window than everybody else is. So by Wardlow keeping the pressure on McKenna, he's not giving him any opportunity to even breathe the throttle and try to maybe save a little here and there. So not sure, because of the way the cautions played out, if that's going to play a factor. But if they're right on the window, advantage to Wardlow for sure.
Oh, absolutely. If you know he's a couple laps short or shorter than you, definitely put the heat on him, and it's not going to give Dylan any chance to lift and coast to the corner. So he's got to go full boat and just see what happens, and Dustin's got to just keep the pressure on him.
Battle for 5th. Paul Jenkins got inside of David Altman as they come down the front straightaway. Will he be able to clear him is the question. Not yet.
one thing when you're running that low line as well, you start wearing those tires a little bit more. So I think that's why the high line works a little bit better as we get later in the run, is you can just kind of keep that car freed up and you're not wearing out those tires as much. Although, they're going through some lap traffic.
Jenkins clears Altman. That's Big Joe losing a lap for the first time. Boy, look at all the damage on that race car. Impressive that he's even as quick as he is right now, honestly.
Yeah, he's just trying to hang on, just get as many points as he can get. He was running up front earlier. Oh, no!
McKenna spins. Wardlow, Karam, they're all wrecked. Hassard's in it as well. Dylan McKenna spins out of the lead, and the two most dominant cars in this race are junk. Dylan McKenna, with 29 laps to go, loses it on his own and takes Wardlow and Karam with him. And boy, does that throw a wrench into everything.
Yeah, we were just talking about the tire wear there, just holding it down that long, and finally the rear tires gave up on him, and he literally just lost it. And unfortunately, he's not going to be happy with himself because he takes out not only Dustin Wardlow, but Sage Karam and a lot of good cars.
Let's take another look. This will be on board with Sage Karam as we just rode with the Candyman, Dustin Wardlow. He's going to need a Georgia special after that one, let me tell you.
Yeah, and these guys, they just have nothing. They don't know it's coming. There's nothing they can do. And I know Dylan didn't do that on purpose, just the tires gave up. Sure, he feels bad about it. But that's definitely going to open up the race to somebody else.
Takes fuel literally totally out of the equation now. Everybody should be able to make it from here. There you see Sage Karam's car, what was left of it, what's left of the Candyman, Dustin Wardlow's beautiful Dewars entry as well. Dylan McKenna left to wonder what could have been.
Yeah, and we got Mark Cohn out front, the watchmaker, basically doing a great job. Started 8th, running first, and right behind him, let's give a shout out to Paul Jenkins, man.
Right?
Started 24th, running 2nd, survived that wreck. David Altman, Ryan Otis survived a wreck early on. So, some people's misery is other people's gain. And so these guys are looking to cash in.
Mark Cohn and that Harpoon Designs Sam Maxwell Customs 39 car, just took a look at it. I was a little worried about maybe the front wing because he kind of ghosted through that wreck, but everything looks okay right now on that race car. That's Big Joe Hassert coming to pit road. He is a lap down. Looks like Chris Walker, who's also a few laps down, will hit pit road. Maybe if they have any damage, try to get that cleaned up. And I am looking here again, and maybe, I don't know if Amjad Yaman, our director, if he can get a look here. We got another caution lap, so maybe, but let's take a look at Ryan Otis's rear wing if we can, because I'm telling you that rear wing has a little bit of a kink in it, and it's right there on driver's left, camera right. You can see where it's bent from that earlier incident. There's a great shot of it, Amjad. Beautiful job by our director right there. That's why he's the best in the business. I wonder how much that's going to affect. Ryan's been able to kind of keep up with everybody, but if he were to get a run and maybe try to pull out, will that prevent him from making any moves, and therefore does this make it a 3-car race up front?
I don't know. He's been running pretty good, but I'm not in his shoes right now, so I don't know how much it's hurting him. He might just be trying to survive, but surviving he is doing all the way up to 4th spot. And sometimes when you get caught in a wreck like that early on and you survive, you just got to, count your blessings, just take what you can get. I think the real battle, Mark Cohn's been real impressive. Dave Altman's been up there a lot, so we'll see what Paul Jenkins can do when we go green. And Taft Baldwin, our pole sitter, right there in 5th spot. He's struggling a little bit in the draft, but he is back in the group for a win.
Gonna say, I'll say this about Paul Jenkins. He's up 22 spots, and that's not a fluke. He has, I think, consistently in this race, maybe Sage and Wardlow aside, who were clearly the 2 cars on pace, Paul Jenkins has been better at passing cars under green than anybody else in this race. So Mark Cohn cannot rest on his laurels here. He's going to have company from Paul Jenkins. Lights are out. Mustang is going to pull in. 25 laps to go in the Sam Maxwell Customs 175 from ISM Raceway. Mark Cohn brings him back to the green and gets a great jump, pulling away from Paul Jenkins and David Altman, right tucked up under the gearbox of that black and gold car for the second spot.
Mark Cohn with a great start off that last corner down the front stretch. Right now, David Altman challenging Paul Jenkins. Ryan Otis right there. You know, he's going to prove me wrong. His car is working good. I don't know if it's good enough to get to the front, but he is good enough to be on the gearbox and make a challenge for Dave Altman. And we go to turn one. Single file through the kink. Paul Jenkins has now been able to drive himself right up to Mark Cohn. As you said earlier, he's been able to make a lot of good passes out there, and he's looking to make one more for the win. Mark Cohn going down the center of the lane, and Paul Jenkins going right around the outside, looking for an avenue. Not quite done yet. Back there, though, in behind Ryan Otis, Taft Balton's really getting challenged by Dean Mull and Chad Dalton and Adam Young.
Oh, man, Paul Jenkins, he was in full send mode, as Brian Yazek would say, and somehow got away with it there. But he rode Mark all the way into the corner down low. And that may not be an awful strategy, by the way. All three of the drivers out front looking for their first ever Lionheart wins of any sort. And if your strategy is make the guy in front, maybe make a mistake, pressure him into it, I'm not sure that's the worst strategy.
No, it's never a bad strategy, as we saw already with Dylan McKenna running that low line consistently and just wearing his tires out. So all these guys are on the same strategy as far as how long they've been on the tires. So Paul Jenkins just looking to find any open he can get, but he's got to start worrying about David Altman, as him and Ryan Otis are starting to close on up, and we got a four-car battle for the lead pretty soon.
Boy, Paul Jenkins making some aggressive moves behind Cohn. He's got to be careful. That's going to open the door up for Altman, who got a great run. That's one thing. If you make a late move like that and you mess up your corner entry and you have to lift, and look out, Altman all over the back of Jenkins there and had to pedal it. Oh boy, things are heating up here with under 20 to go.
Yeah, unfortunately, Paul Jenkins is trying so hard. He's kind of all over the place, and almost David Altman caught the back of him, and it's going to allow Mark Cohn to get a little bit of a gap. The battle really is for second spot now, but Paul Jenkins really needs to just kind of hold a steady line. He's going from the low line to the high line, and I'm sure he's a little nervous, close to his first win, but just try to hold it steady here so we don't cause any more yellows.
Look who's up to the 5th spot, a national holiday. It's Mardi Gras Mole. Welcome to the party, Dean. 5 cars now in contention. They've all started to reel Mark Cohn back in once they got single file again. That's the deal. We were talking about it, Richie. It's hard if you don't have a draft. You can gap them when they start racing side by side, but the second everybody got single file again, it took Paul Jenkins 1 lap to chase him down.
It didn't take long to chase that leader down, so just got to be smart about how they're driving. We got Ryan Otis right on the gearbox of David Altman for fourth, but Paul Jenkins back on the gearbox of Mark Cohn, and forcing Mark Cohn to run that low line all the way. Oh no!
Big wreck, backs it into the wall, and that's going to cost him any shot at a win. And I saw that coming as he entered turn 1. I was just about to say, Richie, when you were done, if he would have survived the corner, I thought the way he was going about that was all wrong. And I saw Ken Hacker also spun to avoid, but Jenkins' motor just blew, so his night is actually totally over. What a tough break for Jenkins. But I thought he was going about that all wrong. He was popping out from the draft late and that high entry into the corner. And we've seen it already tonight with Dylan McKenna and a few other drivers, and you know it, Richie, as well. You can't turn the wheel too hard in these cars.
No, not especially not at this point in the race, because we know they haven't taken tires, so those tires are going to be down to their cords. So you got to be a little bit smoother with that wheel. But good run by him, and didn't get the finish he wanted, but great run.
Look, I'm going to tell you right now that when you're not really in a championship position, and I love Paul Jenkins, but nobody is confusing him for somebody who's going to run with Sage and and Otis and Wardlow, I think, for a championship. He came in 5th in points. He's had a good start to the year with 1 top 10. But when you got a chance to win your first race, you lay it all on the line. And if that means that you pick up your virtual helmet, so to speak, and walk back to the pits with 15 laps left saying, you know what, I made a move and it didn't work, I think you can live with that. Better than getting out of the car at the end of the night and going, man, I wish I did more.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sure he's going to be like, man, that sucks, but he'll learn for it. He was maybe a little bit aggressive with his moves, and he'll learn from it. And next time he's in that situation, he'll just make it a little bit different story.
Championship form for Ryan Otis. We didn't mention, Alex Saunders did not start this race after winning at Homestead and finishing runner-up in points last year. We knew he would miss a few races this year. Sage Karam's now wrecked out. George Sandman was in a wreck. Paul Jenkins in a wreck. James Paulson, George Anzaldo all in wrecks. Travis Jaeger-Leonard was penalized. Finian DeChuna was in a wreck. Chad Dalton, 10th in points, is the second car really running in the point standings. Ryan Otis is fit to leave here with an absolutely spectacular night in the championship hunt if he can just hang on to 3rd or maybe even pick up a few more spots.
Yeah. Yeah, Ryan has definitely used up his 9 lives. He's in a great spot to get a bunch of championship points after missing a couple of wrecks, and you just got to be smart.
We do still have 2 more laps before we go green, and Paul Jenkins has checked out of the proverbial infield care center at ISM Raceway and joins us here in the booth. Paul, Richie and I were just talking about it. A great run for you, and I think when you look back on this race, better to say, hey, I went for it and it didn't work. But what happened?
I wish I could tell you. I've never had the back end come out of this thing before, but sure enough, just cutting into turn 1, and back end said, nope, not going to do it. And that was it. Went around. It took me completely by surprise.
Great run for you. You were up 20-plus spots. You did a lot of your passing under green. Not many cars were able to do it. As you look at this race, and we're about to go back to green, what do you think the key is? If somebody's going to get around Mark Cohn, how do you do it?
Well, I think it's going to take a fair bit of patience. You try and send it on them, but you've got the guys behind you too. You got to be careful of. They're all very hungry too, and if you slip up, they're going to eat you right up. So it's all going to come down to timing. You got to time.
Well, Paul, thanks for jumping back in here. Sorry about the way your night ended, but what a great run. That was so fun to watch.
That was fun while it lasted, guys. Good luck.
That's Paul Jenkins out of the race with about 15 laps to go. Lights are out. Mustangs pulling in. Mark Cohn will bring them to the green with 11 laps remaining. Going for his first win with David Altman behind him in the same boat. And then Ryan Otis, the first-year championship runner-up. Green flag back out. 11 miles left in the Valley of the Sun, and Mark Cohn with a half-second lead already into turn 1.
Yeah, Mark got a great jump off that turn 4 start, and now David Altman has got Ryan Otis right on his gearbox. It's given, and he's going to try to take a take a peek into turn 3. Ooh, drifting up a little bit, had to back out, side by side, coming out of 4.
2 battles, Otis inside of Altman for second, and then it's Taft Baldwin inside of Mall for 4th, and a big wreck in turn 1 and another caution. A huge wreck in turn 1. And Gaiman's part of it. Adam Young, who was all the way up 23 positions, up in the 7th spot.
It looks like, was that Adam spinning out? Looks like whoever what that was got down on the apron and lost the rear, and unfortunately just collected a bunch of people behind him.
Yeah, Chad Dalton kind of turns down in front of Adam, and you can hear him pedal the car. And, Richie, I don't know, you haven't driven this car a ton on ovals, but the one thing you can't do in this car is lift too much in a corner on an oval. It just unloads the car. A lift is like 10% of the throttle, and if you go any more than that, the back end just wants to come around, and I think that's what happened to Adam.
Yeah, I agree. And then here comes George Salmon, had nowhere to go, just T-bones him. And Sends his car upside down. It's going to be the end of the day for George Sandman as well.
And Joshua Gaiman with heavy contact as well. So every 3 cars basically out of this race, and it looked like there was a Chris Walker got a pretty big chunk of that one as well. So, boy, George Sandman, he's going to get his wings from NASA after that one.
Yeah,
Under 8 laps to go.
I was going to say, George hasn't had the best of luck on the ovals this year, but it's a long season, and he's very fast on the road courses.
Adam Young out. His teammate Taft Baldwin kind of was hurt by that one a little bit, as Dean Mall had just gone around him when the caution came out. And Ryan Otis was not able to stay in front of David Altman. When the yellow came out, Altman had about a half-car lead, so able to hang on to the second spot. And we are going to go green with about 3 or 4 laps left in this one. It's going to be wild.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see. Or I should say, surprised at how aggressive Ryan Otis is being. His car's obviously feeling pretty good to him. You know, we noted the rear wing damage. He might not be feeling much of that, because he was definitely shooting for that second spot. And Mark Cohn, the last couple of restarts, has gotten some really good jumps. So that's really what he needs, one more time, and just kind of allow Altman and Otis fight it out for second and leave him alone in first.
Lights are still on. I think they're at 2 to green right now. So if they are, then they'll come back around and take a restart with 5 to go. And the next flag will end it at that point. One shot, basically, for David Altman and Ryan Otis. And Dean Mall up there in 4th and Taft Baldwin in 5th. And I think the key here, if you're David Altman, you've got to be all over that giant rear wing of Mark Cohn and not let him get such a big jump, because then you're going to spend 2 of the 5 laps that you have chasing them back down.
Need to point out that we got 12 cars running at the moment. Adam Young, who was in that last wreck, is still on the lead lap, even though he's in 11th spot. So he's still hanging in there. Big Joe, who we've kind of chronicled his tough race, he's still hanging in there in 12th spot as well. He's only 1 lap down. So
can we get a die cast made of that car after this event?
Right? He's gonna get some points. So sometimes you just gotta hang in there and think long game.
He's a wreck away from getting a top. If he gets a wreck with 3 to go and a couple guys are out, Big Joe's gonna drive that hunk of junk to a top 10.
That's the way it goes sometimes. I mean,
never
if you
give
look
up, right?
If you go up to Eric Block in 10th spot, his car's looking pretty interesting.
Indeed.
But the lights are out. We're gonna go green.
Here we go. Mark Cohn, David Altman, Ryan Otis. 5 laps left. Sam Maxwell Customs 175 is back green for the final time. And it is Mark Cohn with a beautiful start again. Altman under pressure from Otis as they come through turns 1 and 2 and off towards the dogleg. Battle for 5th is between Baldwin and Dalton, the only side-by-side on the track right now, as Altman takes the high line through turn 3 and will try to get the run down the front straight, but here comes Otis. Otis with the draft from Cohn.
Yeah, this is right down the middle of the track on trying to pass by David Altman, but that low line has been tough to make happen. David Altman right up on the gearbox of Mark Cohn. Mark Cohn's going to have to just kind of squeeze him to the outside as much as he can, not give it up. Look at Dean Moll now trying to challenge Ryan Otis for 4th.
Altman to the outside of Cohn for the lead. He's there. 3 laps to go.
Not quite enough to get that lead, because if a yellow flag comes out right now, the race is over. So I think David Altman's maybe thinking about that, just trying to squeeze across the finish line in the lead, but he's really making Mark Cohn stay on the bottom. And like I said, right behind them is Ryan Otis and Dean Moll going side by side, and Chad Dalton right behind them.
Boy, Cohn drifted up there. Altman had a chance at the crossover and didn't take it. 2 laps to go. Cohn drifts again. Altman stays in the throttle. Altman could have crossed him again and did not. Dalton goes inside. 3 wide for 3rd. between Dalton, Otis, and Mole, and he thought better of it. White flag, 1 mile left at ISM Raceway. Who will win their first race in the Retro Series, or can Ryan Otis come and steal one there wheel-to-wheel?
Wheel-to-wheel out of turn 2. Once again, Mark Cohn's been able to hold on to that inside line and get that squeeze over the start-finish line. Coming to the finish here, Jason, you call it.
Gonna be close. Altman under. Mark Cohn wins the Sam Maxwell Customs 175 at ISM Raceway. His first career win in his sponsors event. Cohn beats Altman by 900ths of a second. Ryan Otis hangs onto the podium ahead of Dean Mall and Chad Dalton. A phenomenal finish at ISM Raceway. And Mark Cohn, no doubt, is going to burn down the 39 car. We're back with final results and interviews. No doubt one excited Mark Cohn on the iRacing Esports Network. What a race. Round number 4 of the Lionheart Retro Series presented by Butt Kicker is in the books, and this is the post-race show for the Sam Maxwell Customs 175, presented, as always, by our friends at Plasma Tracks. Now, let me tell you, if you're struggling to find something for the person who has everything, this is the website you want to go to, plasmatracks.com. plasma-tracks.com. The dash is important. Not only do they have great original racetrack wall art, motorsports trophies, including for the Lionheart series, home decor, and fabrication, and more, it is some of the best stuff you're ever going to see. It's all handcrafted, expertly put together. See it for yourself. Plasma-tracks.com. Use the promo code LRS2019, 25% off of your order. Plasma Tracks. Great product there. Let's take you through the finishing order for the Sam Maxwell Customs 175, and it is Mark Cohn picking up the win. His first win in the Lionheart series in either car comes in his 11th start in the Retro Series. Second place to David Altman, a career best run. Ryan Otis comes home third. Mardi Gras, Dean Mall, comes home in fourth. Chad Dalton, fifth. Taft Baldwin, sixth. Frank Bieser, our driver profile. Richie, what do we say? It might be his night. There's his first top 10. He comes home in seventh. Ken Hacker comes home in eighth with a beat-up car. Eric Block comes home in ninth with a demo derby-looking car. And Adam Young spins and comes back to finish 10th.
Yep, and coming home 11th, the last car in the lead lap will be James Paulson. Big Joe hung in there with a heavily damaged car, but comes home 12th, gets some good points. The rest of these guys did not finish the race. Joshua Gaiman in 13th. George Salmon, unfortunately, caught up in that last wreck in 14th. Chris Walker, 15th. Paul Jenkins, 16th. Dylan McKenna led for a while, but unfortunately lost the car. Finishes 17th. Dustin Wardlow, heavy hitter at the beginning, but got caught up in a wreck, 18th. And Sage Karam, 19th, same thing. Sure, tough race for both those guys. And Travis Jagenliner in 20th.
21st on back, and it starts with Ron Hacker. Actually, Finian DeChuna came home ahead of Ron Hacker, 22nd for Ron. David Clymer finishes in 23rd after starting in third. A tough night. Tyson Landis, didn't say much about him tonight, and ended up, unfortunately, back there in 24th. Chris Lanini, 25th. All these cars involved in wrecks now. Ryan Corns, Justin Kirby, Robert Bluen, JP Winscheidel, and Mike Rigney get you back to 30th.
Yeah, 31st. Early wrecks here for Darren Ganji. Scott Holmes as well, 32nd. And George Ensato, unfortunately, coming home 33rd.
Well, this may be the most anticipated victory interview in Lionheart history. It's pretty darn close, I'm willing to bet. The second closest finish in this track's history, and the first career win goes to Northern California's own Mark Cohn. Congratulations, Mark, the winner of the Sam Maxwell Customs 175. I know what Sam has meant to you in your iRacing career, and now you've been able to win for the first time in the Lionheart series in your sponsor's title event. Can you even describe the emotions you're feeling right now?
Not at all, man. 2 years ago, I didn't think I was even good enough to race in a league as special as this. And now, not only to win, but to win at Sam's race when Sam has done so much for me. I'm just trying not to cry right now because this is the pinnacle of my racing career. I can't believe it.
Congratulations, Mark. I knew this would be a big deal for you. It's kind of cool. I don't know if you know this. I'm the defending race winner. So right now, there's just nothing but winners in the broadcast booth. This is a cool moment. I don't know if this ever happened in Lionheart history. I got to ask you, the move for the lead was an interesting one because you were chasing down Sage and Dustin, and I know they were going to be hard to pass, and then Dylan McKenna spins. How did you get through that?
Honestly, I don't know because I've been trying for laps upon laps to try and get by Dustin and Sage, but I felt like I had nothing for them. Then the wreck happens. I thought I actually hit Sage, which apparently I didn't. And all of a sudden, I'm in the lead and I'm shaking because that was the last thing I expected to happen. I literally thought I was going to be third or fourth. So I'm still in disbelief right now.
Let me clue you in on a little secret here. You did hit Sage. The iRacing gods just loved you tonight. Finally, Paul Jenkins was all over you at the end of that race, and then he spun. But how difficult was it holding off Paul? And then David Altman on those last couple of laps as well.
Oh my gosh. So Paul, at first, I knew he was going to try and to use the bottom as much as possible. So I just tried to defend there. Then I gained a bit of time, saw him spin. Unfortunately, I think there was some phenomenon where the tires, when you got to a certain point, if you weren't careful, the car would loop around. And then Altman, the first couple of restarts afterwards, I felt I had him. That last one though, he did an amazing job, and he raced me super clean. So I gotta thank him for that. He gave me a run for my money for sure, and I was just fortunate enough to hold on.
Well, Mark, congratulations. Been a lot of fun getting to know you here. And welcome to the club of winners in the Lionheart Racing Series, the winner of the Sam Maxwell Customs 175 at ISM Raceway. Savor this one, bud.
Thank you so much. And if you don't mind me quickly doing so, I would just like to thank Sam Maxwell Customs. Sam, I got you this one, buddy. SimLab and Harpoon Design. They've done so much for me. Harpoon painted that car I was racing tonight, as a matter of fact. And then NLR, Tyler Graff. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. This one is for you. And Overtake Motorsports, the team I started off iRacing with. This is for you guys also. Thank you all for everything.
It's going to be a popular stream for us to all watch, I think, in the Lionheart chat tomorrow. Mark Cohn, the winner here at ISM Raceway, picks up his first career win over a driver who was trying to spoil the party. Richie, you've caught up with second place.
Yeah, we're here with second place, David Altman. Man, you gave it everything you had, started fourth, ran up front most of the race, but really had a shot at Mark at the end, but just couldn't quite make it happen. David, you there? David, you there?
Breaker.
All right.
Breaker.
Well, we'll try to get back to David in a minute.
We'll give David like another 20 seconds here to maybe try to get this sorted out. I see some other guys hanging out up in the lobby. I don't know if they were interested or not, but they're not in the right room. So, David going once, David Altman going twice. David, let me on behalf of David Altman, let me just say thank you for the great race tonight. David ran a good one, and that was a heck of a race. Richie, your final thoughts on this one as we get ready to turn around and go right back at it next week.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty good race there. I mean, we didn't have a lot of finishers at the end, but I thought we had an exciting race. I was real surprised to see what happened at the front, and unfortunately, Paul, got caught out and took out a couple of contenders. But it was great to see Mark Cohn. You could tell the emotion in his voice, how much it means to him, and great to see that happen. It's always nice to get that first win.
Definitely a great feeling, as we've all had a chance, fortunately, to experience before. That's going to do it for us here in the Plasma Tracks post-race show. And for the Sam Maxwell Customs 175, a big shout out to everybody who makes this deal possible. And it starts with our good friends at Butt Kicker, sponsors of the Lionheart Retro Series. Their products add instant immersion to any game, unlike a subwoofer that moves air. Butt Kicker products move actual mass, producing a haptic immersion that's powerful and accurate. I love that word. Butt Kicker products add that missing driver-to-car connection, brings more realism and immersion to your sessions. If you want to find out more about the family of Butt Kicker products, go to thebuttkicker.com. Use the promo code LION25 for, you guessed it, 25% off your order. And all the Lionheart sponsors out there who have been so kind as to offer up codes to help the sim racers get their gear. Thank you very much. Big group of sponsors that you see listed here as part of the Lionheart series. And of course, a lot of people that make everything happen here, including series organizer George Anzaldo and all of the admins and the Lionheart series, David Cordy and Pierre Dagley and Race Control. They do such a great job. The GSRC side of things, the software and hardware that we use to broadcast, provided by the companies that you see listed here. And June Lalonde with that wonderful music that we have. Make sure that you check out the information on your screen to find out more of her great work. Of course, to our team tonight, Richie Hearn, thanks so much for stepping in. It was great fun working with you for the first time here tonight. Amjad Yaman behind the scenes, Dougie Beard with those great cameras we saw all night. If you want to find out more information about the Global Sim Racing channel, go to globalsimracingchannel.com. Archived races, upcoming broadcasts are there as well. Subscribe on the YouTube. That's that thing you're watching right now. If you haven't subscribed to the Esports Network, do it. If you haven't subscribed to GSRC, do it. You will not regret it at all. Also on Twitter at GSRC channel, Facebook at /Global Sim Racing channel. You can see all of Sean Ambrose's shenanigans there as well. When's our next race in the Lionheart Retro Series, you ask? The answer is 1 week from tonight. We head overseas to the Twin Ring Motegi and round number 5 of the Lionheart Retro Series presented by the Butt Kicker. Here's some other great events coming up. There's the Lionheart IndyCar Series presented by First Medical. Hold on to your hats on that one. Twin main events at Belle Isle in Detroit at the end of May. I'm still sore from practice 3 nights ago on that track. Until next time, folks, that's going to do it for us here at the iRacing Esports Network and GSRC. Want to thank y'all for joining us on this beautiful Thursday night. Remember, in the great words of Brian Yazik, no matter how good or bad your race went, a day with racing is better than a day without. Good night, everybody.